Hi guys, how are you? I hope you're doing awesome. Today we're gonna do something a little different. It's not just me talking today, but you need to answer your questions down below in the comment section. And I'm going to talk to Urmi. She sent me her answers already. I'm gonna leave her channel down below. But I would like you to listen to the questions and write your answers, right? Because I feel it would be super enriching to know how you deal with those things. Something I would like you to take away from this is that there's not one way to learn. There are many ways to learn. And just because you do some things different than me, it doesn't mean it's not useful or it's not going to work or whatever. Everyone has their own way to learn, and I think we should just embrace variety. And that's why I would like to get all your answers, even if they're different than mine or than Urmi's, it doesn't matter. I feel like there's no right and wrong. Everything can work or cannot work depending on the situation, context, person. So yeah, I hope you guys leave lots and lots of comments and please share this video. Thanks a lot to my Patreon and Ko-Fi supporters. You guys rock. And let's get started. So the first question is very simple, but it would make me really happy to get your answers. And it's simply, hi, tell me something about yourself or tell me a bit about yourself. Just, yeah, where are you from? What do you do? Like, I don't know, just something about you.
Hello, my name is Urmi. I live in Montreal, Canada. I was born and raised in Italy. My parents are from Bangladesh, so I always tell people I am Italian by birth, Bengali by blood, and Canadian by law.
Since this is a language channel, I would like to know what languages you've learned so far and what's your approach.
I can speak Bengali, Italian, English, French, a little bit of Spanish, and back in the days I also knew how to speak German, which unfortunately I forgot because I didn't put enough time to practice it, and so it is a language that unfortunately I have lost. And the approach that I have taken so far to learn a language was basically in a school setting. So basically, I did my education. I would say I did most of my education in Italy. I did my high school in Italy, and basically I did an intensive program based on learning languages. So we would have really like 8 hours per language. So we would have like English, French, and German, 8 hours, and basically we would have a little bit of everything. We would learn the grammar, we would learn like English literature, French literature, German literature. We would learn about words in the business field. We learned the grammar. We also had conversation with native speakers. So we would do a little bit of everything, and it was very, very intensive, which is why I would say I can consider myself to be a polyglot, because I can speak several languages because of how intense these courses were.
Like I said at the beginning, not everyone studies or learns languages in the same way, and I am not a big grammar fan, but hey, everyone does it in a different way, so I would love to know how you go about it.
Grammar, I mainly study through memorization, because I think that's the only, well, it's not the only way, but that was the first approach that I had when I was learning the grammar in each of the language that I have learned, because that's the only way. You have to basically memorize it. You have to memorize all the rules, and I keep revising it. So usually what I do is I tend to go back to some school books, or I tend to go back to watch YouTube channels, and there basically I just follow like what the rules are, and I try to apply them. And I think like knowing the rules and applying the rules through exercises just go hand in hand. This is how you can only learn, is by just practicing whatever you have learned, especially when it comes to grammar, because if you want to grasp whatever you have learned, you have to keep practicing.
One question that I get asked a lot as well is, what was the hardest language so far? For me, it's very clear it was Russian. If I'm ever going to learn Japanese, I think that will be the hardest one.
What was the hardest language so far, and why? So for me, it was actually German, and it's because unlike English, French, Spanish, it has its own rules, and it's completely different. Like it's all based in memorization, and it has a different kind of pronunciation, and you have to memorize so many rules, like even with for articles and stuff like that. It's just so different. And especially when you like hear someone speaking German, you it's so hard to understand what they're saying. So for me, it was really, really hard because every time we would have exams or tests, I always had to memorize the grammar, and it's so important that you know the grammar. And we had to memorize or remember like articles for different words, and this is where I feel like it just came. It was just difficult. It was much more challenging than any other languages. I feel like because it had no connections with English or it had no connection with French, so it was much harder.
This one will be interesting and controversial. When can you say that you speak a language? When do you allow yourself to say that? For me, it's always about communication. So I always say I speak 8 languages. Of course, my Swedish is very basic. My Russian and Italian are not that good either, but hey, I communicate. So I would say, yeah, I speak 8 languages, but all of them in different levels, and that's okay. But I know some people will be like, no, you have to have a B2 level, or, and I'm not saying this is wrong, just a different approach. So what's your approach?
So, according to me, I think if you know at least 60% of a language and you can handle a basic to intermediate conversation, I think you're more than enough to say that I know how to speak the language. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you want to understand what the other person is saying, but you also want to be able to respond back. And I think it's much more important sometimes to be able to respond back, because I remember I had really a lot of difficulty when I was a kid that I would understand when people would speak to me in English, but I had no clue how to answer them because I didn't have the proper base to reply back to them. So I think it's I would say that if you know 60% of a language and if you are able to have a basic conversation with a friend, then I think you're more than enough to say that I know how to speak the language.
And last but not least, what are your future plans for language learning? Do you plan on learning other languages? Do you have a magic number where you will stop? Or will you maybe forget some of the ones you've learned and start new ones just because maybe you enjoy the process so much at the beginning? I think, like I said, there's no right or wrong. Right now for me, I don't have any limit, but at the same time, I'm very conscious of my time. So I think at some point I might say, okay, I'm dropping this or that language in favor of taking on a new language, or just simply saying, well, I'm happy with the languages I speak. I might want to improve this or that one, or I don't know, just depending on your priorities in life. So I think this is very, yeah, changing, and I don't know, it just depends on a lot of things. But what's your opinion on that?
For me, ideally, I do plan on mastering how to speak Spanish properly, and I do work on it because I think it's a beautiful language and I don't want to lose it. And I took several classes in Spanish, so my goal is to actually be proficient in Spanish. And of course, I do want to create more courses when it comes to languages. I did create an Italian course where I basically give expressions on things like how to order coffee in Italian, how to order croissant in Italian. So I do want to keep creating courses in Italian. And of course, I am a teacher on italki, so I do give conversation lessons in Italian and English to people. And my own personal goal is to learn, is to be proficient in Spanish.
Well, guys, I hope you've left many messages. A big thanks goes to Urmi. Thanks a lot for spending the time with doing these videos. I hope this will be useful and interesting for all of you guys. Go check out her channel. And yeah, thanks a lot again to my Patreon and Ko-Fi supporters. And I hope to see you very soon. Bye bye.